don't know if you already asked everyone.
Not yet.
Looking at the names here, I see some people that have been with us before. Welcome back. We'll give everyone, it's 2 p.m. Eastern on the dot right now. Done this enough times to know that we should give everyone an extra minute or two. So for those of you that were on time, awesome. Thank you. But as a courtesy to everyone, we'll kind of give them another minute or two before we dive in. But in the meantime, please click on the chat on the left-hand side of your screen and just drop in your location and maybe like your main practice area or practice areas. Always like to just kind of know where everyone's from and kind of what your core practice areas are. And we'll do our best throughout the session to maybe even reference certain practice areas when we're talking about examples. So again, if you're just signing on, hop onto the chat, tell us your location and your 1 or 2 main practice areas. Insurance bad faith. That's specific.
Yeah, haven't seen that one yet. That's a first.
Stacy in Los Angeles. All right. Yeah, I've seen insurance here and there, but even getting more specific than that. Interesting. Of course, we've got family law. We've got some people in New York. For our New Yorkers out there, tell us what your practice areas are. And remember, we actually know how many people are on here. So there's a lot more people that are on here than are telling us their practice areas in the chat. But that's all right. I think we had close to 70 people actually registered for this webinar. So again, I want to give everyone another minute to kind of sign on and join us. AM Law 200 Law Firms Global Enterprises. Just reading through the comments. Again, if you're just signing on, go ahead and pop into the chat on the left-hand side, drop in your location, your practice areas. If you've been with us before, you know the drill. We love to make these interactive. Feel free to ask a question or drop a comment into the chat anytime throughout. Even if it's about something that we haven't got to yet, we always can kind of make a mental note of it and come back. But your comments or your questions are never bothersome. If anything, they're actually helpful. I know both Mike and I really feed off of y'all's energy. And so since you're not on video, the more you can engage us through the chat, it actually really helps us honestly bring it a lot more. So I encourage engagement. Please do not hesitate to ask a question. And at a minimum, at least tell us where you're located and what your practice areas are. With that, I'm going to kick it over to Mike to kind of guide us through our slides today. I'm sure I'll have plenty to say. For those of you that haven't met Mike on a webinar before, he is our social media manager at Spotlight Branding, meaning he actually runs Spotlight Branding's socials as well as does some other marketing for Spotlight Branding. So even though we're a marketing agency and we do marketing for our clients, we obviously have to do marketing for ourselves. And Mike runs mainly the social portion among some other things. And if this is your first time joining us and you don't know who I am, I should have mentioned I am Mark Cerniglia, the owner of Spotlight Branding. We are a legal marketing focused agency. Today's webinar is all about the do's and don'ts of social media, which is why we have our social media manager, Mike, with us. So Mike, I'm going to hand it off to you, man. Anything you want to add before we get started? And then you can kind of dive in and take it away and tell us what we're talking about. And I'm sure I'll have plenty of commentary.
Oh, for sure. I'm excited. I've done a webinar before, but since we started doing the monthly webinars, this is my first. So I'm excited to get back into the saddle and let's talk some social media for law firms here.
Perfect. Hey, real quick, we did have someone drop a question. If we're going to share the slides, easier for us if you drop questions in the chat versus, I know there's a little questions button over there. We kind of miss those sometimes, but we're going to send out the slides afterwards. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. And we'll also have it recorded as well.
Don't tell them that. We'll pay attention. Pay attention.
That's right.
We're going to give you good information.
All right.
Okay, cool. All right, let's go for it.
All right. So here's a quick little rundown of what we're going to be covering today in terms of your social media for your law firm. Obviously, the big one, the title, do's and don'ts for your social media. A lot of times, we'll get into it, but a lot of times people think that, I can just post whatever on social media. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't have any effect. it does. So we'll be going over that.
Or they think you just don't need to, like it doesn't matter, so don't do it.
You don't have to do TikTok dances. That's okay.
That is true. You don't have
we're going to be covering the balance between professionalism and engagement. We're going to give some tips on building a strong online presence, and to finish it off, we're going to show some ways to avoid these pitfalls, and covering the best practices for social media. Obviously, I just went down the list, but we'll get right into it.
And I'll just add before we dive in, we basically have, I think, 4 slides with a do and a don't on each.
Yeah.
That's going to kind of be the rhythm of our session, really. So only 4 slides. We're not going to bombard you with a bunch of text. A do and a don't on each. Sometimes the do and the don't are going to be correlated. Other times it's honestly not. We just came up with 4 do's and 4 don'ts. And from a presentation standpoint, it made sense to put one of each on each slide. So they're not always going to be super connected. This is going to be very conversational between Mike and I as we talk about these. So we'll talk about the do first, and we'll talk about the don't separately, because like I said, they're not going to always be correlated to one another. But again, as Mike and I are talking, feel free to join that conversation, right? Because it's going to be very conversational between him and I. So, all right, Mike, what's our first slide? What's our first do?
Cool. First do: maintain a professional tone and showcase legal expertise. So I think that second part kind of goes without saying, right? You're in the legal industry. You guys went to school to be in the legal industry. You guys spent years. You have years of experience. Maybe you're new, but that's okay. You still have the years of experience in school. So basically, it's a very basic do, but a lot of people sometimes miss it. A lot of law firms sometimes miss it about showcasing their legal expertise.
You know, here's a question I'd be curious to ask everyone out there, and if you're up for it, if you're willing to be vulnerable, maybe throw your answer in the chat. But I'd be curious to know right now, for those of you that do post on social media, what type of content do you tend to post? And if you wouldn't mind sharing that in the chat, that would actually be helpful, and we can kind of comment on that a little bit. But the reason I'm asking is because, look, the professional tone. I mean, the funny thing is that we put this in here because that's generally true. But honestly, I don't think, like, when we say professional tone, that doesn't mean like super serious all the time, right? Okay. What we're really talking about here is the second part, that legal expertise. This is the key to doing social media right as a law firm. And Mike really kind of hit the nail on the head. You all have expertise. Use social media as a place to share it. Okay, that is the point of social media. It's like an extension of your website. Most of you understand and would agree that your website content should be about your practice areas. It should be about the things you do. You should have content, maybe blogs or videos on your website that talk about different situations your client face. So if you are a family law attorney, you hopefully have content on your website about how to handle divorce, especially if you have kids, and just different things like that. Well, your social media content should be about those same things, and a lot of times can even link to those blogs or those videos if you have it. But your social media content is really an opportunity to share that information, that knowledge you have. All right, so what do we get? What we get in the chat here? Oh, okay, this one's good. Training webinars. Congrats for client successes. I love that. That's a great way to balance it out. I would make sure that in addition to that, you're still sharing blogs, videos, just things that are offering help and support. And obviously the training webinars are part of that. I love the congrats for client successes. I think that creates a real, well, Mike, you could probably comment on that better than me, but there's that people on social media sometimes are also definitely looking for like that personal connection, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that social media is the perfect place to establish that personal connection. So whether it's a client success or it's a testimonial that you got on Google or something like that, sharing that kind of information that really shows people that pop up on your page that, okay, like this person is actually like they care about, their clients, and not just kind of running through the whole thing. But
And Stacy said there in the chat, content related to our practice area. I mean, bingo, right? So Stacy, I'm assuming that's going to be blogs, videos, quotes, quick comments. I mean, to be honest with y'all, even just linking to your practice area pages, right? So if I go back to the family law example, if you have a page about divorce, if you have a page about guardianship, if you have a page about alimony, like you could share those pages on social media and just kind of say something like, want to learn more about how we help people with divorce, click here. And the truth is you could do that every month. Like you could rinse and repeat a similar concept like that. But when you can, I think you want to maybe take it a step further and actually showcase kind of your expertise. And you'd usually do that through blogs and videos, and then you share them on social. So, all right, Mike, let's talk about this don't that we have on here. And what we're telling people here is essentially you need to avoid conflict and or sharing confidential information. Yeah. So conflict could potentially be just things like getting into debates through comment sections and things like that. Confidential information is pretty clear what it is. We had someone a minute ago mention that they share client successes. I think pretty much in all states, if not for sure most of them, you want to be careful about using client names and things like that without permission. Mm-hmm. But I see a lot of law firms do things like, if you're a business law firm, you might have a testimonial and you might sign the testimonial something like landscaping company, mm-hmm. right? Or if you're a family law practice, you could have a testimonial and it could say something like, there's a better example in this, but like mid-30s divorcee or something like that. But like there are ways to kind of like still do that. But you just want to be careful with sharing confidential information without permission or engaging in conflict. I mean, Mike, what if anything would you add to that? I definitely think this is probably more of I don't know. I mean, maybe lawyers do get into it on social media. I really don't know. I wasn't actually too worried that our audience would struggle with this. I don't know. Anyone out there willing to admit in the comments that they get into heated debates all the time? I don't know. But Mike, what would you add to this as our kind of in-house social media guru who spends all day on his phone? And every time I walk by his desk, I'm like, is that dude working? But I think he's just on Instagram. Yeah. What would you add?
Yeah, I mean, I think just not even having to worry about including like a name is something that's I see a lot. A lot of people, a lot of law firms on social media, they'll just say something like another happy client, and then they'll put the little testimonial there, right? So they don't even have to worry about that. But I say it's probably always best practice to at least get the permission from the person to include it on the social media. I mean, it's covering your bases. And if they say no, well, I'm sure you have another happy customer, happy client that will be more willing.
And I also think I don't think you have to get, I think generally what you want to ask for from your clients that give you testimonials or success stories is you're just looking for kind of a blanket yes. Hey, can I share this on our website? Can I share this publicly? Our website, socials, et cetera. That way you don't necessarily have to get explicit permission for every single individual use. Sure. What I'll say about conflict, by the way, real quick, is that, and actually Stacy just mentioned something that kind of was where I was alluding to in the comments here. She mentioned sometimes controversial questions spur a lot of interaction. I agree. And that's actually a great type of content to post. I think the key then is if the comments do start to get tense, do you expose yourself to that? And so, Mike, I don't know. Let me give my hot take, and then you can give yours if it's any different. I would have zero fear if comments got heated, right? Because that's fine. That's between the commenters, right? And if anything, I want engagement and things like that. So I wouldn't have any problem if there was conflict brewing inside of comments. Of course, unless it got mean and offensive or things like that. I think the key is just not really participating in it, or
just moderating. You should be fine. As long as you don't stick your foot in your mouth, because it's social media, right? So once you put it out there, it's out there. So as long as you're just kind of moderating, but as long as it stays like a healthy kind of back and forth. You definitely don't want any kind of like beef going on. I mean, that's just...
You will get spam comments too. Like without, I mean, to be honest with you, it's funny we're talking about all the comments and things like that. The truth is, for most law firms, you don't get a lot of engagement on your social media. And we'll talk about that in a later slide. That doesn't actually mean that your social media is not working necessarily. But the truth is, most law firms aren't going to get a lot of comments and engagement anyway. And to be honest with you, sometimes what you're going to get is it's going to seem really odd. You're going to get like random comments of people being like, F you and things like that. And like, that's just straight up spam. Like, it's not even anyone that knows you or anything.
Those are those trolls, those internet trolls coming out of there.
And I think, I don't know if a lot of social media accounts are automatically hiding those anyway. I know back in the day, you could go in manually and just hide comments and things like that. So, but if you guys are getting any of that out there, like don't worry about it. You're not doing anything wrong. You don't have to change anything. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. All right.
What do we got next?
Next up, let's see. We got balance content with other posts like quotes, images, and relevant articles.
All right. So let me add my thoughts here. So this plays well off of our previous do, which was to showcase your expertise. Okay. So what we're talking about here is digging a little bit deeper into that strategy. So let me put it this way. What you kind of don't want to do is you don't want to be overly promotional on social media. You don't want to just constantly be promoting yourself or your firm. One of the ways you can find a happy medium is what we already talked about. It's sharing your expertise. So when you share blogs and videos and things like that, offering like again, if you're a family law attorney, you might write a blog that's like how to keep the divorce process smooth for the children, right? Or 3 tips to a quick divorce, right? And then you share that content on social. And that actually is a great happy medium because you're not really like directly promoting yourself or your firm, but you are indirectly doing so. But it's also okay to sometimes just straight up promote your firm, right? Have a post that's need help, call this number, or having posts on social media that just talk more about what you do in a very direct manner. So what we're saying here is to make sure you balance that content out with content that really isn't meant to promote you at all. Okay. So Mike, maybe you can unpack and obviously add anything you'd like, but maybe unpack a little bit more of kind of what we're talking about. I don't mean to throw you for a curveball, but maybe even we can show them an example or two of like a quote that a law firm could post or an image. And if I'm throwing on the spot, maybe we can grab that in 10 minutes and come back to it later. But can you give them some examples or some idea of this, like what I would almost call like non-legal content?
Yeah. I mean, so, it comes down to like your situation, right? So a lot of law firms are dealing with very stressful kind of situations. Their clients or potential clients are kind of in this state of mind where they need help and they need to get out of this like kind of like this stress. So when it comes to things like quotes, right? Like you could post an inspirational quote. Now it's like Mark was saying, it's not promoting your law firm, but it still helps your audience because I mean, heck, there's a lot of inspirational quotes out there that just reading them, I mean, just can inspire people, right?
Mike, let me say real quick to that. It's funny you mentioned that because you and I haven't had a chance to talk. I had a call with a client last week. I think it was Friday, and we were actually talking about the social media content. He actually told me he's had people come up to him at like events and things like that and tell him that something as simple as a quote on social media, like maybe like an inspirational quote from like a famous figure, like that they saw that post at just the most perfect time in their life. Maybe they were having a bad day or struggling with something, but on more than one occasion, he has had somebody tell him that even like a quote from the social media like impacted them and helped them. And it's just, it's just really cool to realize like these things don't always go into a black hole. I mean, sometimes they might, right? Yeah. Like, but I thought that was really cool to actually get that feedback of like, a quote on social media actually help improve someone's day.
Yeah, and I think that's purely the intent, right? Is that you put this content out for your audience. You're not putting it necessarily out for yourself. I mean, maybe you read it in the morning, you're like, oh, that's a nice quote. I'm glad I read that again. But you're putting it out for your audience. So for that, case scenario right there where it actually did, wonders for people, like that's perfect. So that's like with quotes. With images are a great way to build the personal touch, right? That we were talking about earlier. They kind of work hand in hand with like a little behind the scenes. Like a lot of times, people have like this skewed perspective on lawyers, that they're just these nasty people that they just want to charge you a bunch of money. They don't really care about you, blah, 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 right? Images showing a little behind the scenes of like, hey, this is us. This is what we're working on. This is hey, meet our office manager.
Good
hey,
day in the life.
Yeah. Hey, meet our new paralegal, whatever it is. It's a great way to build that personal touch. Like people
it humanizes
exactly,
everyone.
Humanizes. Absolutely. That's the word I was looking for there. And then obviously relevant articles, anything that pertains to your practice area, anything that you want to focus on in terms of.
And these are third-party articles.
Correct.
So a really great example is if you're a business attorney, a business law attorney, corporate law, small business, you might share articles from like Forbes.com or other entrepreneurial articles, right? Like content that would be interesting to your audience, If you're a family law attorney, it might be a bit more of a stretch, but like what kind of content would your audience be interested in that is still tangential to what you do? Like maybe there's an article out there that gets published about kind of what it's like to kind of start handling your own accounting after you get done the divorce process, right? And that's an interesting article that you could share even if you didn't create it, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of opportunity there to also think about just finding content that would be helpful to your audience that you can share on social media.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it comes down to what's best for your audience, what's going to help your audience, right? So it's those relevant articles, even though you didn't write it yourself. I mean, who would people would appreciate you being sharing stuff that's going to help them that you didn't necessarily write. So Stacy had a comment.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Yeah. you want to read that off real quick to everyone?
Yeah.
And I'm ready, man.
I know you're ready to go. All right, here we go. So Stacy said, I had someone tell me not to post about legal stuff, but to post about things people like, such as food, animals, restaurants, because these posts get way more engagement.
Okay. Let's actually camp out here for a minute because I think this is a really interesting topic, and hopefully for those of you attending, this is interesting as well. So let's actually somewhat pretend like we were in court talking about this, right? So the one argument would be essentially do these things because they create more engagement. But that would suggest that the most important thing on social media is engagement, right? Okay. Yep. And it might be, but what's the other side of that, right? I mean, why do all of these companies then on social media actually create content that has to do with their product or services, right? Like, why isn't everybody just posting pictures and videos of food and animals and things like that, right? Look, here's the thing to Stacy and to anyone. And I mean, maybe the advice this person gave was more layered than just what's here in the comments. So I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but here's my hot take, right? Engagement is not the most important measurement of success for social media. I don't know if I'm getting ahead to another slide, but if I am, that's okay. The most important thing your social media can do for you is showcase your expertise, all right, and build your credibility, and also help you stay in touch with your existing network, which I think we're going to talk about in a minute. But if you get a bunch of engagement, so what? What I would say to you, Stacy, or anyone out there that's thinking about this is how does that engagement help your firm? Like how does that help you grow? Like, is somebody really that much more likely to want to become a client or refer to you because you post great food recommendations? I'm not going to say like absolutely not, but I guess my thing is, why can't it be both?
Mm.
Like why can't your social media, why can't some content be actually talking about what you do? And oh, by the way, why can't some content be sharing help around what you do? Right? People will read your blogs if they are in a situation like if you're a business law attorney and you write a blog about, the key strategies, the three tips of putting together a solid operating agreement. Your business clients will skim that or read that, and that will be helpful to them, right? If I was to go to your social media accounts and all it was animals and restaurants and things like that, that's a little bit odd. So I think you can use social media to build your credibility. You can use social media to talk about your firm and what you do. The key is to balance that, to not have every post just be about that, okay? Because social media is not just about engagement. It also is about branding, building your brand. And I'll this is my last comment on this, and then Mike, feel free to fill in any holes. But like, there are going to be times where someone is actually been referred to you or found you, and they're doing their due diligence on you. They're researching your firm, and your socials become one of the places that they might be going just to get more information about you. So that's not going to show up as a like or a comment. Right? But that person is coming to your socials to get a better sense of your firm and who you guys are and what you're all about. And so if I get to your socials and you're just all of these things that have nothing to do with my legal situation, to me, that might even be worse than having strictly only content about what you do. So the short answer is there's room for both. Yeah. Okay. And the other point I wanted to make here is that it's not all about engagement. If it was, then everybody would just be doing content about food and restaurants and things like that, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. And to that point about that balance, right? That Mark was talking about. If it's so important for your firm to post about a local restaurant, then maybe take a quick little team trip there, have lunch or something like that, and post a picture of the whole team at the restaurant. That way you can still, have some sort of element of your law firm within that, right? There's ways you can kind of work
right.
around.
Just had a big win for a client. Here's how we're celebrating.
Boom.
Right? Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Here we go. I like it. And Stacy came back, made a comment here. I appreciate the follow-up. She also asked if we think it's worth it to pay to boost posts, try to get more followers or likes. Look, I'll give you my simple answer to that. Yes, but not necessarily for the followers or the likes, but for the exposure. Okay, so every social media platform calls it something different. I think most of them call it reach. Yep. So reach is how many eyeballs your content got. As where likes are literally somebody clicking that like button, followers or somebody choosing to follow or subscribe. But, reach is how many people saw something. And more importantly, and I'm totally cheating here, so we're spending a little bit more time on this slide and we'll spend less on one of the others. But Stacy, what I would say to that question is that social media, one of the big things social media also does is help you stay in touch with your existing network. So Mike, I don't know if you can add maybe like a 30-second tutorial here, but like I know on Facebook, and I don't know about some other platforms, but like on Facebook, you can actually create an audience based on like your existing email list. And so then you could actually boost your social media content to your existing contacts. Okay. And I like that a lot more, honestly, because I don't think a lot of people are going to social media to find a lawyer. In other words, I don't think it's about new followers and people finding you on social or getting business from social. It's about staying in touch with your network, reminding them what you do, staying top of mind. So I know on Facebook specifically, you can actually tell Facebook to boost your content to your existing network. Mike, can that be done on any other platforms as much?
They just introduced that to Instagram. So Meta is kind of covering both their major ones there. Yeah, it's called a lookalike audience is what it's called.
Okay. And I think, and the lookalike audience is where you upload an email list. And just to be clear, guys, there's no email actually taking place. Facebook is not going to email these people.
Correct.
They're going to use their emails to see if those people are on those platforms. And if they are, they're going to show your content to them. Or a lookalike audience, meaning people with similar avatars, similar demographics, similar. So yes, I do think it's worth it to boost, but I would actually focus primarily on boosting to your existing network and your existing audience, or potentially a lookalike audience. Yeah. Okay, Mike, let me just say real quick so I can keep us moving. Sure. On the don't here, steer clear of over promotion. I think we covered that.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, if anything, Stacy brought up a good point, which is where you can actually steer too much the other direction as well and do no promotion. Find that happy balance. Don't over promote, but don't under promote either.
Correct.
We got 2 more slides left. Let's jump to them, and we're halfway through, so we're doing good on time.
We're doing good. All right, here we go. Regularly update content to stay relevant and engage with the audience. Yeah. A lot of times.
Go for it.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say a lot of times people are worried about annoying their audience, right? They say, "Oh, I don't need that much because I don't want to annoy them," right? The truth of the matter is that based on social media algorithms, by the amount of time that people spend on social media, by the amount of people they follow already, they're not going to see all of your content unless they go to your profile. They're really not going to see all of your content. So, in terms of addressing the people that think that they're going to annoy their audience, you're really not. And plus you're providing value as well. So always providing value helps to not annoy them because it's something that they need, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think the real key here, honestly, to me, is frequency, right? So I kind of talked about this before. I said it was on a future slide. One of the main benefits of social media to most really white collar service based industries, honestly, and definitely law firms, is that it's a tool to stay in touch with your existing network, right? To stay relevant and engage with your audience, like the do here says. Mm-hmm. But what some people fail to remember sometimes is that not every piece of content you post gets shown to your network, gets shown to your followers. So like, I'll kind of lift the hood for you guys real quick on Spotlight Branding, right? We offer social media as a service to our clients. We offer a done for you service. We will write the social media content. We will post it. Okay. We'll manage your whole social media presence. We'll create graphics. We'll create videos. Like, we'll do everything we've been talking about so far in creating that balance. But here's what's interesting. I'll just be real honest with you guys for a second. Our largest social media package is a 40 posts per month package, which would average about twice per day. And no one's ever signed up for it. and if I'm really being honest with y'all, like, there are a lot of social media gurus out there saying you should be posting 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day, because not everybody sees your content. It's not like when you post that often, everyone's just seeing everything, right? So I've definitely noticed an aversion in the legal industry to posting as often as you should be. And my answer to that is, at a minimum, I like to see law firm posting once per day. So about 5 days a week. You can skip weekends if you'd like, but so to me, the do here isn't just the type of content, but it's that regularly, which needs to be frequency. And when you understand, to your point, Mike, how the algorithms work and that not everyone sees content, like, how frequent is regular enough, right?
Yeah. Stephanie had they got a great system going on there. It looks like we post on YouTube, TikTok 1-2 times a day, Facebook, Insta 5 to 6 times a week, and LinkedIn 4 times.
Well, and Stephanie, what I would wonder in your case, and this is kind of a good thought for anyone, is also how often could you be reposting that same content on the other platforms, right? So a lot of times, whatever you post on TikTok could also be posted on Instagram, Twitter /X, Facebook, okay, etc. So yeah, great. So when we talk about creating a post for social media, like whether it's a video, a graphic, sharing a blog or a quote, that one single post is going to get posted on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google Plus, I think, even if that's still a thing, or Google My Business, whatever they're calling it these days.
Google My Business, yeah.
If it's a graphic or a video, Instagram, right? And if it is a video, potentially even adding TikTok to that rotation, like Stephanie is here. So cross posting is really valuable as well. You don't have to create as much content, as you might think, but hopefully that helps some people out there to think about the algorithm. Now, if you can only post a couple of times a week, I'm not saying don't do it at all. Okay, something is better than nothing, but you have to try really hard to post too much on social media.
Yeah,
like I don't know that there's such a thing. It's not like emailing somebody. Right? It's not like every time. It's not like it shows up to their inbox every time. It shows up on their feed once in a while, right? Sure. Stacy, love the engagement. Got her question. What do you think the most important platforms to post on? So, obviously, we're talking law firms here, right? Okay, so I'm going to give Stacy an answer. I don't think that she'll like, but because the answer is all of them, right? Like
we get into that at the end, but yeah,
don't discriminate. But I think you could if you had to prioritize, you could slightly do that based on your practice area. So if you're B2B, then definitely prioritizing LinkedIn would be really important. But the truth is, whether you're B2B or B2C, people are on all the platforms, even if they're not on them as professionals, right? Like I'm a professional, I own a company. I also go home, and if I'm being honest, like I hang out on TikTok because it's interesting. Right. So I especially going back to Stephanie's point of cross posting, you don't really have to prioritize. Like 9 times out of 10, whatever piece of content you're posting, you can just go post it on the other places. So, but if you really wanted an answer to this, it would be the main 4 or 5. It would be Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Do not sleep on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is getting so much traction right now because there's a lot of people spending time on LinkedIn, but there's not a lot of content being created for LinkedIn. So you have a supply demand ratio in favor of the supplier of the content. I think if you're up for it, you could throw TikTok into there because it's really taking off, And I know that X/Twitter right now is a little bit controversial, but it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So, I mean, I guess that would technically be 5 core platforms. Yeah. I would try to work on all 5 of those if you could. Mike, anything you would add to that question or answering that question?
No, I think you hit it right on the head there. I mean, yeah, definitely those are the top 5 right now that you really want to be spending most of your time on.
And I want to mention right now too, because we got one more don't on this slide, and then we've only got one more slide after this. So thank you all of you that have kind of hung with us so far. I hope that it's been helpful. Let us know in the comments too. Your feedback's helpful. But maybe we can we have a link. Is it our social media survival guide, or is it a template?
Yeah, it's the survival guide.
Yeah, let's go ahead and drop that in the chat now, if we can. Perfect. Mamie from our team just dropped it in there. We'll repost it at the end. But this is like a social media survival kit that we've created that we wanted to share with you all today. You just got to put in your email address to get it. Okay, it's free. There's no cost or anything. But I want to drop that in now while we're talking about it, and we're getting some great questions in here, right? And hopefully that kit will be helpful to some people. All right, real quick. Stacy also asked, what we think about trying to get more exposure by posting on sites that aren't your own. Mike, what do you think?
Like I'm guessing she means probably like another website that's not her own. So not necessarily talking about social media here, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, maybe a little clarification, Stacy. Like, do you mean commenting on other people's posts, or do you actually mean somebody sharing your content on their platform, or what do you mean? But posting on insurance consultants, you mean, but you're still posting on your social media accounts, but just about another industry?
Yeah, I mean, if it's so like a collaboration, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, the simple answer is yes, both, all of the above. If you can, yes. If you can cross post, if you can post on someone else's account, if you can have them, or you have them share one of your posts, yes, all of it's valuable. Absolutely. I'm not trying to have a cop out here, but like that's kind of how all these algorithms work. I mean, Mike, you spend what, half an hour, 2 hour every day just commenting, like just engaging other people's content?
Yeah, absolutely. And the idea is there's a few different things there is to obviously help us get more exposure in the industry, but also to provide some sort of value, to start some sort of conversation, to maybe leave a valuable comment that maybe somebody else comes and sees and then they get value from it. So there's all different types of reasons for it.
And I want to say too, I don't mind kind of pointing this out as the owner of a marketing agency. That would be something that would actually be hard to expect a marketing agency to do for you. So if you ever did want to outsource some of your social media, whether that's, hey, we'd love it to be us, but even if it's not, I would try your best to keep a strategy like that in-house. So in other words, you could have a marketing agency create your content, publish your content, but when it comes to you engaging other people's socials or creating strategic partnerships, that's something I would definitely work on internally, because I think that just works a lot better than having an outside company do that for you. Want to move on. I just do want to acknowledge Nikaila's question real quick about TikTok videos. We're working on this, so stay tuned, and hopefully we'll have better answers down the road. I think this is still a challenge for law firms to figure out good content. Mike, I'll give my second answer. Maybe you can give yours. But if you wanted a simple place to start, FAQs. Yep. Video FAQs about what you do. So answer common legal questions that come up and kind of use TikTok, like almost like you would YouTube, start creating kind of like a library of FAQs and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can, in order to get ideas for TikTok videos for FAQs, I mean, you can either, think about some ideas, some questions that you get a lot, or you could go to Google and look up like what people are searching for in your industry, and do a video about that, answering that question. So a bunch of different ways, but let's get to the don't here on this slide.
Well, we've kind of already covered this. I kind of briefly mentioned this while we were on the last side, but the don't here is to not expect leads from social media. Okay, so I mentioned a few minutes ago that we were talking about engagement, and I kind of said it real quick. I don't know if you all caught it, but this might sound crazy coming from a marketing guy, but I don't mind planting my flag in the ground, and I will stand by this until it changes, if it ever does. And that is, it's still in today's climate, the majority of people that need a lawyer are not going to social media to find that lawyer. So because of that, we don't believe that the main purpose of social media for a law firm is to generate leads or generate new clients. Okay. So the don't here is don't expect that from social media. Don't let that be how you measure if social media is successful or not, worth it or not. If you get some leads from social media, great. It's icing on the cake. But here is what makes social media worth it for a law firm. It's two things, and I've already mentioned it, but I'll unpack it slightly longer this time. Those two things are building your brand and your credibility. Have you noticed these like hand gestures, right? And I'm Italian, right? My last name is Cerniglia. I talk with my hands. So I don't know what's going on, but that is not us triggering that, just so you guys know. That's some sort of AI.
I saw the thumbs up go up a few times, and I was like, oh.
I don't know if it's a Mac thing or what it is. Maybe someone in the chat knows the answer. Maybe have that happen to them. But anyway, I hope it's entertaining. But number one, I'm going to keep my hands down here. I'm like Will Ferrell in Talladega Nights. I don't know what to do with my hands. You guys know that reference. But number one is social media is about building your brand and your credibility. We talked about that earlier with content, right? It's another brochure for your law firm. When people are looking you up, when they are trying to get more information about you, they've already found you, and your socials are one of the places they're doing their research on your firm. The second reason is to stay in touch, to stay top of mind. When you stay in touch with your network, you generate more referrals, you generate repeat business. You generate more strategic opportunities. I've had clients tell me stories like they got invited to be on a speakers panel and things like that just because of their social media content, because they're just putting themselves out there. Okay, so social media is going to help you build your brand and your credibility. It's going to help you generate more referrals and repeat business, and it's going to generally do those things more than it's going to generate a new client all on its own. Okay, so hopefully that resonates with some of you. If that confuses you still a little bit, or you find that challenging to accept, feel free to drop it in the comments. But this is kind of a hill that we've been dialing on for a long time. And so I hope it's beginning to kind of click and make sense for you. We do want you to do social media, but we want you to look for the right things in terms of ROI when you do it. And if your main goal from social media is to just get new clients, you'll be disappointed more often than you're happy.
Yeah.
Mike, anything to add to that?
No, I mean, like you said, I think that
you wouldn't have a job.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, heck.
But we don't expect our social media to generate a ton of new clients for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's everything has its purpose, right? Its main purpose here, and for law firms, social media is just a great way to stay in touch because that's where people are, right? So it's a great way to stay in touch. But
love it.
Cool. Let's hit the next one. Here we go.
Fourth and final slide.
Here we go. Provide helpful information. I feel like we've talked about this quite a bit throughout, right?
Yeah, we did. Well, I think that, this was pretty similar to when we talked about sharing your legal expertise. We put this in here as a separate do because we kind of wanted to make sure to say it this way, right? But obviously the idea behind sharing information about your expertise is to help people, okay? Yeah. But the bottom line is that should be your goal of social media. This is the age-old thing we learned learned when we were younger about you have to give to receive. Mm-hmm. And what we find is the people, the law firms and the marketers, even like ourselves, that are the most successful in social media, give. They give and they give and they give. Mike, maybe you can even comment on this from our point of view, right? Because you are constantly giving away the farm on social media, right? We lift the hood and we'll tell you exactly how we do what we do, so you can do it for yourself if you don't want to hire a company like ours to do it for you, right? Maybe you can kind of talk about that philosophy.
Yeah, the idea here is that it's what we do is it's not crazy. Like, you guys can absolutely do this stuff yourself, and the idea behind giving away the farm, as you say, is basically to make yourself the best outlet for your audience. It's to basically be that go-to, like
expert, like it builds you as the expert.
As the expert. There you go. It's like they're coming to you with questions, or like, how do I do this? How do I go about this? And you know what? There's many times where what they need done, they just simply can't do themselves, and that's where you come in, right? But at the end of the day, you're not creating like this covering. Like, you're not like, oh, like, we're not going to tell you unless you become a client. Like,
yeah, and it's important to note, I think in the legal space, we're not necessarily encouraging you to create content instructing your audience to do it themselves, right? With marketing, it's a little bit more reasonable for us to do that. But what we are saying is, don't be afraid to give away too much information. Don't be afraid to give away the secret sauce.
Yeah. And that can be in, in a video, it could be in a graphic, whatever, suits your fancy there, but it could be in a blog. But it's just a great way to build credibility. A lot of people are looking for answers, and if you're that person with the answers, then you're just building your credibility. It's very powerful. But a lot of people, for some reason, I think they're just kind of nervous about giving away too much. But at the end of the day, it's really about give, and then ask, right? It's you want to give 75% of the time, and then maybe ask 25% of the time.
Love it. So we've only got one more item here to talk about. So I'm going to ask you all to go ahead and start teeing up your questions. Any burning questions, anything else about social media, any questions about Spotlight branding, feel free to drop them in now. because we're going to be done in the next 60 seconds or so. And we've got 10 minutes left for y'all if you have any questions. And if not, we'll wrap up early. But the very last item on here is not to cherry pick which platforms to use. So earlier we got asked what platforms we would prioritize. Gave our best answer to that. But this is the other side of that coin. To some degree, it's, don't cherry pick your platforms, because I think the whole point we're trying to make here is it's just actually not that hard to repurpose content from one platform to the next. Again, there's some exceptions. TikTok only takes video. Instagram only takes image or video, right? But LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, they take video, image, or text, right? So, there's a lot of cross promotion you can do. And even if you think that your audience isn't somewhere, you still never know who might be there that could be a referral source or something like that. There was a story a while back. I don't remember the exact details. I think it was LaCroix. The the
water.
The flavored water. The story I heard, I don't know if you guys noticed, like you see LaCroix everywhere now, right? Apparently one of the pieces of that story is LaCroix were early adopters, I think, of TikTok. And when it was like 13, 14, 15-year-old girls that were mostly on it, apparently. But I guess what happened is that made those teenage girls go to their moms and say, hey, can you buy LaCroix next time you go to the grocery store? Right? And then LaCroix kind of blew up. So, when we're talking about just cross-promoting, taking a blog you created and sharing it on social media, like why not share it on all the platforms? Because it's just not really a downside. It doesn't take that much more time. You never know how it might help.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, Mike, we got a question here from Stephanie.
Cool. Let's see. What do you guys think about the sudden engagement search? More search on social media forums like Reddit, Quora. Should these platforms be added to our social strategy for engagement or social listening?
Well, you do some of this for Spotlight, right? I mean, we don't do this for our clients as a service, but what insights can you provide, Mike, from your point of view when it comes to these forums? And maybe you can try to relate it to the audience, or honestly, maybe based on your answer, I might even be able to.
Yeah, I think that obviously, with Quora, especially people are really going there with very specific questions. So I think that you probably shouldn't expect too much out of these platforms for your social media. But I mean, if you put them out there, then that's just another avenue.
I would think what would be tough is the geography of it, right? I mean, like if you knew that somebody in your city was posting a legal question on Reddit or Quora, and you went and responded to that legal question, I think that's fantastic, because that person might eventually need a lawyer and is probably going to hire you. And other people who come to look at that post might also be in your area. I think where this might be tough is, unless you have a national, like your law firm has clients all over the United States or even the world. If you're geographically focused, you might be answering a question of somebody, 2,000 miles away. I'm not going to say there's no value. I think it would just be about time. There's certainly value, and there's, if you include links to your website, there's probably some SEO benefit, which may or may not be valuable. But I do think you also, if you do like this strategy, though, you also could do the same thing by commenting on other people's videos and things like that, on the actual social channels. I will tell you this, I don't know if they still do it, but years ago, Avvo used to have legal questions, and you could come into Avvo and answer people's legal questions there. That also boosts your Avvo rating. I don't know if Avvo is still doing that. It's been a while since I checked that, but if that tool is still out there, some of that time spent on Reddit and Quora might be beneficial spent on legal focused sites like Avvo. So let's we got time for one or two more questions. So if you have any, drop them in there. Can we get that link one more time to our social media survival kit? We're going to put that in the chat. Again, it's a free resource. Just click on the link to grab it. It's going to be there in the chat, and I'll kind of wait another 60 seconds or so, see if anybody else has any other questions. We've talked about expectations around what you're going to receive from social media. We've talked around what your goals of the kinds of content are that you should create. All right. Any other questions out there on that stuff? While we're waiting for that, Mike, I put John on the spot last time. I wanted to have a joke ready at the end, and he didn't.
Oh boy.
I mean, if we're being honest with our audience here, you might be one of the biggest cornballs of all of Spotlight Branding. I mean, is that fair?
That's very fair. I think having
and what I mean by that, everyone, is this is like our resident dad jokes guy.
Yeah, and you know what? I was never always this way. All right, I was not this way. My whole life. It was having twins. Just kind of double up everything and just knocked me twice with the whole dad jokes aspect. So you get double the fun with me, basically, in terms of dad jokes. Yeah.
So
that's the thing is that dad jokes they're very they gotta come up naturally, right? It's not like I can sit here and tell you a knock joke. It's like something's got to be said or something has to happen. And then that's when the dad joke comes into play. So, I mean, maybe something will happen in the next 60 seconds that will, elicit one, but it's got to come up naturally. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
We continue to disappoint our audience.
That's my cop out.
All right. Tune into the next webinar. I'm going to have a different partner with me. I'm just kidding. For the record, we love Mike at Spotlight Branding. We like to poke fun and have a good time with each other. Don't see any other questions pouring in, and that's fine. I hope you guys got value out of this webinar. Again, if you haven't grabbed it yet, there's a link right there in the chat for our social media survival guide. If you don't see the chat box, it's over there on the left-hand side of your screen, and there's a link about 3 posts up. Go ahead and grab that. Slides should be coming out in an email probably sometime in the next few days, as well as the video. But as always, we appreciate you all coming. Please, 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 I say this all the time, but it's worth repeating. If you have topics you'd like us to talk about, let us know. Email us, info@spotlightbranding.com. Go to our website, fill out our contact form. We want to continue to create better webinars, better workshops. So tell us what would be helpful to you so we can create content just around that, right? So please give us that feedback. Let us know what we can do better. And of course, if you do need any marketing services, we'd love to connect with you. You can go to our website, spotlightbranding.com. There's a booking link right on there. You can schedule an absolutely free consultation with our team, and we can potentially talk about how we could actually do your social media for you, or do your blogging for you, or do video FAQs. Okay. So if you would like help with your content marketing, also go to spotlightbranding.com and book a call with a member of our team. And I'm sure that if you tell them that you were on this webinar, they'll probably come up with a deal for you. So,
or maybe a joke. Maybe they'll have a joke for you.
Or, a joke would be better than a discount, right? All right, everyone. Thanks so much for spending time with us. We enjoyed your company. We enjoyed your engagement, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.